If you think you know Mauritius, this might surprise you because in the next few minutes, everything changes. Fast, from racing down a gravity-powered coaster to standing in a place that helped shape the entire island's history, from walking across a suspension bridge that tests your nerves, to flying over a valley on one of the longest zip lines in the region. From coming face to face with wildlife on an open safari, to standing on cliffs where the ocean does not hold back, and just when you think it slows down, it doesn't. Because this journey keeps shifting, from city energy to wild landscapes, to moments that stay with you long after. So, stay with us, because this is not just one story. This is Mauritius Unfiltered, and you do not want to miss what happens next.
Port Louis doesn't ease you in. It hits you mid-sentence. One minute you're imagining Mauritius as quiet beaches and calm sunsets, and the next you're standing in a capital city that's been moving non-stop for over 300 years. This harbor was claimed by the French in 1735 under Governor Maidela Bourdonnais, who turned it into a key naval base. Later the British took over and expanded it into one of the most important ports in the entire Indian Ocean. Trade routes from Europe, Africa, Asia, and beyond all came together here. That's why the city feels so full of life and history as you walk around.
It's the kind of place where standing still feels like you're the only one not keeping up. Cars honking, people rushing scooters, weaving through traffic. Everything is in constant motion. And of course, Joe decided the best way to match that energy was to start the day going really fast. Not just walking quickly, literally strapped into a little cart on a track, holding on tight while I wondered why on earth I agreed to this on our holiday.
Casela Nature Park began as a small bird park back in 1979 and has grown into a proper adventure reserve with lots of outdoor activities. The Tulawaka Gold Coaster is one of their star attractions, a 760-meter track inspired by alpine coaster systems. There are no engines involved, just pure speed. It runs purely on gravity with clever banking turns and controlled descents. You control your own speed using the brakes, so every rider gets a slightly different experience. The track winds through the green hills and gives you beautiful views of the west coast and the ocean in the distance.
Joe makes it sound so calm and logical when he explains it. In reality, you start off thinking you'll take it nice and easy and enjoy the scenery. Then the track drops, and suddenly you're moving much quicker than you planned. I spent half the ride gripping the brake handle like my life depended on it. My heart was racing, and I kept thinking, "Slow down, Sarah. You're not trying to break any records today."
The braking system is manual, which is what makes it so much fun. Most people begin cautiously and then gradually get more confident as they feel how smooth the track is.
Joe skipped the cautious part completely. He went straight into full confidence mode from the very first second. I could hear him laughing and whooping with excitement, while I was still trying to negotiate with physics and not scream too loudly.
It really is a smooth ride. Once you trust the track, the way it's engineered with those banking turns keeps everything steady, even when you pick up speed.
It feels smooth until you remember that you're the one in charge of the brakes. One wrong move and you're testing how well the safety features actually work. But I'll be honest, once I stopped fighting it so much and let the cart do its thing, it became pretty thrilling. The wind in your face, the green hills rushing past, the ocean sparkling in the background. It was a brilliant way to wake up and get the blood pumping for the rest of the day. Just don't tell Joe I enjoyed it, or he'll drag me back there tomorrow.
Small decisions at speed. That's what makes the experience stick with you. It's a bit like traveling itself. Sometimes you just have to let go a little and enjoy the ride.
Easy for you to say when you're the one leading the charge and laughing the whole way down.
After all that speed, we headed back into the city where the pace changes, and the meaning runs much deeper. Aapravasi Ghat, located right on the Bay of Trau, Fanfaron is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. After slavery was abolished in the British Empire, in 1834, Mauritius became the very first place to test a new system of indentured labor. The depot opened in 1849, and between then and the early 1920s, nearly 462,000 people, mostly from India, passed through this exact location. They arrived after long sea journeys that could take many weeks, were registered at the depot, and were then sent to work on the sugar plantations across the island. This large-scale experiment shaped modern Mauritius and went on to influence labor systems in many other parts of the world. Today, the site feels surprisingly quiet, with its original stone steps and open spaces that tell a powerful story of journeys and how so many people came together over time to build the island we see today.
It feels surprisingly peaceful when you stand there. Just simple stone steps worn smooth by so many feet over the years, and plenty of open space around you. But when you stop and think about how many people began completely new lives right where you're standing, it really makes you pause. It's not loud or flashy at all. It's respectful. We didn't say much at first. We just walked around slowly and took it all in together, looking out over the bay where the ships would have arrived.
Those stone steps are original. The people who came here would have walked exactly the same path we did. Inside the Interpretation Center, there are displays and information that help you understand the scale of what happened, the long voyages, the challenges they faced, and how their hard work and determination played such an important part in creating the diverse Mauritius we know and love today. It really puts into perspective how this one relatively small site had such a big influence on the island's history.
It's one of those places that stays with you long after you leave. We spent quite a while there, walking around, reading the boards, and talking quietly about how different our own journey to Mauritius was compared to what people experienced back then. It definitely gave us a lot to think about.
From that quiet moment, we jumped straight back into the lively energy of the Central Market. This has been the island's main trading hub since the 1800s. Because Mauritius has such rich volcanic soil, the produce here is incredible. Bright pineapples, fragrant spices, and piles of fresh vegetables. All of it grown locally and full of flavor. The market is packed with stalls, colorful goods, and the air is filled with all those wonderful smells.
Walking inside feels like stepping into a dance that everyone else already knows the steps to. Vendors move quickly and confidently. Customers know exactly what they want, and we were just trying our best not to get in anyone's way. The smells hit you from every direction. Fresh herbs, ripe tropical fruit, and something delicious frying nearby. It's busy, but in the best possible way, full of color and life.
There's a real natural rhythm to everything. People buying, selling, chatting, and negotiating prices. You can see why this market has been the heart of daily trade for generations.
Joe stood there watching for about 2 minutes and decided he had completely mastered the rhythm. The next thing I knew, he was bargaining for a big bag of pineapples, like he'd been shopping here every week of his life.
I was supporting the local economy. Those pineapples looked too good to pass up, and I thought it would be nice to take some back with us later.
You were smiling politely while the lady at the stall gave you that kind of a nice try look. She still charged you the proper price, but the pineapples turned out sweet and juicy, so I'm not complaining at all. And that cold allowed a drink with the basil seeds? It was absolute perfection on a warm day, so refreshing after walking around in the sun.
You see, part of the fun of traveling is learning as you go and trying new things, even if your first attempt at bargaining doesn't go perfectly.
Or watching your husband learn the hard way while you stand there sipping your drink and laughing at him. It made the whole market visit even more enjoyable for me.
Chinatown adds another interesting part to Mauritius's story. Chinese communities began arriving in the 19th century and became an important part of the island's commerce and everyday life. Their influence can still be seen clearly in the local food. Boulettes are these small dumplings, often made with fish, chicken, or pork, and served in a light broth or with noodles. They're quick to eat, very tasty, and really full of flavor. We stopped at a simple street stall and watched them being prepared fresh, right in front of us, one bowl, and you immediately start thinking about ordering a second one.
They're small, but they definitely pack a punch. There are no fancy extras, just honest, satisfying taste. The broth is simple and comforting, with just the right seasoning. We actually ended up getting 2 bowls each because they were so Moorish and hard to stop eating.
That's one of the things that makes Mauritian food so special. Different influences all coming together and working perfectly on one plate.
Exactly like our marriage. We're different ingredients, but somehow it all tastes right in the end. Pass the chili sauce before it gets cold. I like mine with a little extra kick.
A fusion done. Well, we sat there for quite a while, enjoying the food and watching the street life going on around us in Chinatown.
And they are seriously addictive. I'm definitely going to miss these boulettes when we finally head home. Every time I think about Port Louis now, those little dumplings are going to be one of the first things that come to mind.
As the day started to wind down, we made our way up to Fort Adelaide, also known as La Citadelle. The British built it in the 1830s on this hill, both for defense and to have a good view over the city during a time of change. From up here, the panorama is incredible. You can see the busy harbor with all its ships, the streets full of movement below, and the mountains ringing the city in the distance. Everything that felt hectic down on the ground suddenly looks connected and well organized.
It's amazing how different the city looks from above. You can really see how the port brings everything together. As the sun began to set, the light changed, and the whole place started to glow with that beautiful golden color. We found a nice spot to sit and just soak it all in.
Ports like this were so important in the days of sail, they served as vital stopping points for ships traveling long distances between Europe, Africa, and Asia.
Now we're standing in almost the same spot, looking at the same harbor, but knowing our own journey home will be much quicker and easier. It was a lovely, quiet moment to just breathe and reflect on everything we'd seen and done during the day. We talked about all the different places and how they fit together to make Port Louis feel so unique.
The city really softens as the sun goes down. All that earlier energy turns warm and peaceful, and the colors in the sky were absolutely stunning.
It's one of those perfect times when you feel really lucky to be experiencing it side by side with someone you love.
Port Louis isn't a quiet postcard capital. It's a real, living meeting point of history, movement, different cultures, and everyday life. It keeps adding new stories on top of the old ones. From the fast thrills on the coaster at Casela, to the important history at Aapravasi Ghat, the lively chaos of the Central Market, the delicious street food in Chinatown, and finally those beautiful views from the Citadel. It's a city that gives you so much variety in just one day.
It doesn't try to make everything simple or easy for visitors. It invites you to keep up with its pace, to notice all the little details, and to enjoy the ride, even when that ride gets a bit fast and you're hanging onto the brakes for dear life. We laughed a lot today, learned plenty of new things, and made some really great memories together.
And that's exactly what makes a place like this so special. Travel like this keeps life exciting and interesting.
Plus, the food definitely helps. Those fresh pineapples and addictive boulettes were definite highlights for me.
Stay curious and keep exploring new places with us.
And maybe bring someone who'll hold your hand on the downhill bits, or at least someone who will laugh with you when you're gripping the brakes in panic.
There is a moment when Mauritius stops being just beautiful and starts being a little bit intimidating. And that moment usually happens when the road begins to climb and the landscape shifts from coastline to something greener, deeper, and a lot more dramatic. Welcome to the Highlands, the part of the island often called the Green Heart, where everything feels just a little bit bigger, a little bit steeper, and today, a lot more adventurous. We arrived at La Vallée des Couleurs, a nature park known for its unique geological features, including the famous colored earth dunes, where volcanic minerals have created layers of red, brown, and violet, and even hints of blue across the landscape. But today, we are not here just to admire the view, because right in front of us is something that looks calm from a distance and slightly questionable when you get closer, a 350-meter-long suspension bridge hanging about 100 meters above the ground. Now, to put that into perspective, that is roughly the length of 3 football fields suspended in the air, with nothing but cables and confidence holding it together. The first step is always the hardest, not because it is physically difficult, but because your brain suddenly becomes very aware of where you are. Every step forward, the bridge moves slightly, just enough to remind you that this is not solid ground.
This feels like a very long decision.
Exactly. And turning back is not really an option, because halfway across, you realize something: the only way out is through. But then, something changes. The fear turns into focus. The view opens up, and suddenly, you are not thinking about the height. You are thinking about how incredible it looks from up here. And when you reach the other side, you get that moment. Relief, then excitement, and just a little bit of pride. Because it is not just about crossing a bridge, it is about pushing past that hesitation. Now, if the bridge tested your nerves, what comes next? Tests your coordination. Next up, the mountain luge karting. 3 wheels low to the ground, gravity doing most of the work, and just enough control to make you feel confident until the first corner. The track winds its way down the hillside, sharp turns, fast straights, and just enough bumps to keep things interesting. This is where things go from controlled to competitive very quickly.
I am just going to take this slow.
I'm sure that lasted about 5 seconds, because once you pick up speed, you realize this is not just fun, it is addictive. By the time you reach the bottom, you are already thinking about doing it again, which is usually a good sign, or a sign that we underestimated how fast that actually went. From adrenaline, we moved into something completely different: Sept Cascades, also known as Tamarin Falls. 7 distinct waterfalls flowing through a series of forested valleys fed by rivers that cut through volcanic rock over thousands of years. This is where the island slows things down again. The sound of water replaces everything else. The air feels cooler, and suddenly you are not rushing anywhere. Each tier of the waterfall has its own character, some wider, some more narrow, some forming natural pools perfect for a swim.
This is the kind of place you do not want to leave.
Exactly. And here is something interesting. These waterfalls are part of a larger watershed system that feeds into the island rivers, supporting both ecosystems and local communities. Stepping into the water is refreshing in the most literal sense, cooler than the ocean clear and surrounded by rock formations shaped over centuries. It is the kind of moment that resets everything. From nature, we stepped into history again. Maison Eureka, one of the largest colonial houses on the island, built in the 1830s. This house is a reflection of a different time, built during the sugar estate era, designed to stay cool with high ceilings, wide verandas, and dozens of doors and windows, allowing air to move freely. At one point, it had over 100 openings, designed to manage the tropical climate long before modern cooling systems existed.
So this was early air conditioning.
Exactly, just without the electricity bill. Outside, the gardens stretched down towards small waterfalls, creating a peaceful contrast to the energy of the morning. This is the kind of place that reminds you not everything needs to move fast. And then we end the day with something completely different. Again, a dish that is as much about presentation as it is about flavor. Bowl renversé. Translated as upside-down bowl, this dish reflects the Chinese influence on Mauritian cuisine developed by early Chinese migrants who adapted traditional recipes using local ingredients. It is built in layers, stir-fried vegetables, chicken or seafood placed into a bowl, topped with rice, and then flipped onto a plate.
So, the reveal is part of the experience.
Exactly. And when it lifts perfectly, you know it is done right. The flavors are balanced, savory, slightly sweet, rich, but not heavy, combining techniques and ingredients from different cultures into one dish.
This is one of those meals you remember.
Exactly. A bridge that challenges you, a ride that speeds things up, waterfalls that slow everything down, a house that holds history, and a dish that brings cultures together. This side of Mauritius is not just beautiful, it is dynamic.
There are days on this island that feel calm, quiet, and predictable. Then there are days like this where everything shifts and becomes a true adventure to remember. Because today starts with wildlife. Then it moves into something unexpected and ends somewhere that feels completely alone. And somehow it all fits together. Casela Nature Parks, on the west side of Mauritius, where the landscape opens and the space immediately feels different. Wide terrain, dust paths, animals moving across open ground. It is not a traditional zoo. It is a managed safari environment designed to feel closer, more natural, more connected. And instead of sitting back, watching everything pass by, we move through it. Eco Riders heavy-duty electric scooters, built for this terrain. You are not just observing. You are part of the movement and the full experience, trying to stay on while someone keeps shouting, "Go faster." Looking forward is key because behind you is a bit of a distraction.
This might be the only safari where balance matters as much as bravery.
And suddenly staying upright becomes a priority. As the path stretches ahead, the landscape begins to shift. Zebras move calmly across the field, antelope grazing completely undisturbed. The distance between you and them feels closer, more immediate, more real. There is something about seeing animals in open space, without barriers in front of you. You slow down, you notice more, because this is not a performance. This is their environment, and you are moving through it. And then, you see it, a white rhino, standing still, solid, calm, unmoving, and everything around you goes quiet.
That is a lot more presence than I expected.
It does not need to move to make you stop. The scale, the strength, the stillness. It holds your attention completely. And just when you feel like you have adjusted, the experience shifts again, because there is one moment here that changes everything. The lions. Closer than you expect, but never uncontrolled. Guided carefully by trained handlers. Every step intentional, every movement observed. You are not approaching them freely. You are moving within their environment, under close guidance. The lions remain calm, focused, completely aware, and suddenly, you become very aware too.
This is the moment where you start paying attention to everything,
including your breathing. There is no rushing here, no sudden movement, just presence, respect, and awareness. And that is what makes it unforgettable. When it ends, there is a shift. Everything feels sharper, clearer, because experiences like that stay with you. Not because they are loud, but because they are real. From wildlife to something completely different, because this island never stays in one mood for long. Albion Lighthouse, standing on rugged cliffs, looking out over the Indian Ocean. Red and white. Simple, striking. And everything here feels different. The wind is stronger, the ocean louder. No coral reef softening the waves, just water, meeting rock with full force. The cliffs stretch outward, sharp, uneven, untouched. This is not the calm postcard version of Mauritius. This is the raw side.
This feels like the island without editing.
Exactly. And it does not need any. The lighthouse stands alone, marking the coastline, guiding ships. The ocean keeps moving. The wind never really stops, and yet the structure stays the same. A quiet kind of consistency, in a place that never sits still. And after all of that, the day shifts again, because here, the day always ends with something simple. A roadside stand. No signs, no noise, just food, prepared the same way. Again and again. Gâteau à rouille, made from taro. Shaped by hand, then fried until golden. Crispy on the outside, soft on the inside. It looks simple, but the flavor is not warm, earthy, and comforting. It is much more.
Yeah, this is one of those things that disappears faster than expected.
Because stopping at one is not realistic. Today did not follow one path. It moved from open landscapes to powerful encounters, to quiet coastlines, to simple moments. And that is what makes it work. Because the island does not give you one experience. It gives you contrast. And that contrast is what stays with you.
There is a side of Mauritius that feels completely different from everything we have seen so far. Less polished, less predictable, and a lot more powerful. And today, that is exactly where we are heading. The East Coast, often called the wild side of the island, where the ocean does not just sit quietly, it moves, it crashes, and over time it reshapes everything in front of it. And somehow, that makes it the perfect place to close out this chapter. We are back in the Highlands, but this time, not for the views, not for the bridge, but for something that takes everything we have done so far and raises it to the next level. Higher, faster, and just a little bit more intense. This is one of the longest zip lines in the Indian Ocean, stretching roughly 1.5 kilometers across the valley. To put that into perspective, that is longer than 15 football fields suspended in the air.
That is not a zip line. That is a commitment or an attempt to lose your fear of heights.
And my thoughts exactly. The moment you step off the platform, everything goes quiet for a second, and then suddenly you are moving fast. The wind picks up, the ground drops away, and the entire valley opens up beneath you. From up here, you are looking at a landscape shaped by volcanic activity millions of years ago as the island itself emerged from the ocean floor. Layers of mineral, rich earth, dense vegetation, and deep valleys, all shaped over time.
Okay, this is officially worth it. I'm sure when anyone gets halfway, they forget about the fear and get mesmerized by the view.
Yes, dear, that is the experience, and usually the moment right there in the middle. And just when you start to get comfortable, it is over, which somehow makes you want to go again immediately. Now, if flying through the air was not enough, there is another option, and this one is slightly more unusual: a bicycle zipline.
So, just to confirm, we are riding a bike in the air.
Yes, dear.
And pedaling is required.
Very much pedaling is required. It needs to be an ongoing process, not just to pedal once or twice. You sit on the bike, clip in, and start pedaling across a cable suspended high above the forest floor. Unlike a normal zip line, where gravity does the work, here, your movement controls the speed, which makes it part balance, part momentum, and a whole lot of endurance. And if you slow down too much, halfway across, there is only one solution: keep pedaling.
That feels like a life lesson and quite an experience.
Yes, definitely. It usually teaches you some very important lessons. From the air, we moved back down toward the coast, where everything shifts again from adrenaline and heights to something far more raw. This is Pont Naturel, a natural volcanic rock bridge formed from hardened lava flows and shaped over time by constant wave erosion. The ocean does not gently meet the land here. It crashes with force, pushing through the rock opening, sending water upward in powerful bursts.
This is not calm at all.
This is the ocean at full volume. And what makes it even more impressive is that over time, that constant pressure from the waves has been strong enough to carve through solid volcanic rock. Standing here, you feel the scale of it, the wind, the sound, the movement. It is not just something you see, it is something you experience. From natural forces, we move into history. Vieux-Grand-Port, one of the earliest European settlement points on the island, established by the Dutch in the 17th century. This area holds remains of early structures and foundations, offering a glimpse into how life on the island began to change.
So this is where that shift started.
Exactly, one of the first places where Mauritius began its journey into what it is today. And after a day like this, there is only one way to end it. Something warm, something filling, and something with history. You need some halim.
Joe, now you lost me. What is that?
A slow-cooked dish made from wheat lentils and meat blended into a thick, rich soup, originally from the Middle East and brought to Mauritius through Indian influence. It is traditionally cooked over many hours, allowing the ingredients to break down and develop deep layered flavors.
This feels and smells like comfort food.
Exactly. And in Mauritius, it is often prepared in large batches and shared especially during gatherings and during Ramadan, which makes it as much about community as it is about taste. A flight across a valley, a ride through the air, a coastline shaped by force, a place where history began, and a dish that brings everything back together. Mauritius once again shows a completely different side, one that is not just seen, but experienced. All right, truth time. If you came here expecting one version of Mauritius, you've probably realized by now that was never going to happen because this journey did not stay still for a second. It moved from city streets to mountain highs, from wildlife moments that make you pause, to coastlines that remind you just how powerful nature really is. And that's the thing about this place. It does not show you everything at once. It reveals itself one moment at a time. So the real question is, where do we go next? Because if this journey has taught us anything, it's that the best stories are the ones you don't see coming. Stay curious. We'll see you on the next adventure.